Welcome to Haunt Weekly. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the haunted attraction, haunted entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And we come to you once again, whether you're catching us during the live chat on Sunday, though getting the recorded version hot and ready on Monday, or just whenever you happen to be listening to this episode. We appreciate you taking the time to spend the hour with us and hope that it is enjoyable and entertaining and maybe even somewhat useful this time around.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Because this week we're talking about unusual ways to start your haunt. And we're going to get into the normal way in just a minute. Mm-hmm. And then some of the less common ways we've heard. But first things first, if you have a moment, definitely take a moment. Check out our website at hauntweekly.com or Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook. YouTube.com/HauntWeekly is the YouTube channel. Give us a like and subscribe there. Really helps us out. And that is the easiest way to get through the entire back catalog of Haunt Weekly. Every episode is there. We got playlists. We got stuff. It's great. You can also catch us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and always at facebook.com/HauntWeekly every Sunday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Join us live as we do these episodes in front of a not quite studio audience. It's not a studio.
Right.
Not a studio audience. I mean, I guess they're an audience and we are in a studio.
That is true.
But the audience is not in the studio.
Right.
Anyways, moving on, it is time to do the question of the week. And first thing is first. Crystal, tell the nice people what the question of the week is.
Okay. Well, this is your question of the week. Why are you having me do it?
I've been talking a lot. I want a break.
You do the intro very well. What is one piece of advice you give a new haunter? Someone who wants to join a haunted house.
So you're a veteran, maybe of whatever stripe you get. Someone that wants to join a haunt. Maybe they want to be an actor, a builder, whatever they want to do. What is the advice you would give a newbie or someone that's just interested in haunting? And I got to say, I've been thinking about this one ever since I came up with it. And I guess the first answer I would give is to remember that anything you do while haunting has to be repeatable hundreds of times per night.
Yeah. Yeah,
because
definitely.
I've seen so many people come into our haunt, and they're like, the first 5 customers are hot and heavy. They're hot and ready, like a fucking Little Caesar's pizza, man. They're ready to go. Hot and ready. And they're just thrashing around the and it looks great. It looks awesome. But by, the end of the night, they're dead.
Yeah.
They're barely there. They're barely vertical.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, anything you're going to do in a haunt has to be repeatable hundreds of times a night. And especially if you're working in a pro haunt, it has to be repeatable hundreds of times a night for, 16 to 30 nights a season.
Yeah. And if you're doing Hell Week, well,
you're not going to get any breaks. You're not going to get a week to recuperate.
No, exactly.
So, yeah, that would be my biggest piece of advice, is to just remember whatever you're doing has to be repeatable hundreds of times without you being dead, either literally or physically, literally or practically.
Yeah.
Okay, Crystal, your advice.
I think it's just to listen and try to learn as much as you can from the people around you, especially get to know the people who are in charge. So if you see a problem, you can report it immediately, but get to know your zone and just listen and pay attention.
That's good advice too. Especially if you're dealing with people who've worked that zone and worked that haunt before.
Yeah.
Eyes open, ears open, mouth closed.
Yeah.
Is the best advice. Is good advice.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully, if you're an actor at a new haunt, they will pair you with a veteran haunter so that you can learn from them.
And part of that is not just listen to people, but introduce yourself to people, talk to people, engage with your fellow haunters. Because part of what you're there for, at least theoretically, is to make friends and to meet people and have fun. And it's much easier if you, talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. And a great reason to talk to people is to learn from them.
Exactly.
It's probably the best reason to talk to people, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah, listen and ask questions. There you go. There's an answer.
All right, that's some great stuff. I think that both of those are great pieces of advice. Look at us. Look at us, man. We're giving really good advice here.
Sounding a little more competent than before we started recording.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I don't know what I would tell him. I came up with a question, and the first thing I thought when I put it in the notes was, oh, Jesus, I'm screwed answering this one. I got nothing to tell the young whippersnappers. Get out! Run! You'll wind up on a mediocre podcast.
Get Out was a great movie.
Yes, it was. All right. Moving on, though, to this week's topic du jour. We don't have any updates on the Haunt Weekly store. HauntWeeklyStore.com, by the way, to check out our latest merch. We don't have anything new this week. I didn't do anything.
Okay.
Mainly because I didn't have any big, brilliant ideas.
Oh.
And
okay.
I forgot.
Yeah, you forgot.
Let's be realistic. But there's lots of great stuff in the store. HauntWeeklyStore.com. T-shirts, hats, mugs, stickers. We got hoodies. We got all kinds of interesting stuff in there. Check it out. We can keep you comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, that does bring us to the topic du jour, though, topic of the week, though, which is unusual ways to start your haunt. Now, this is a you episode. This is a Crystal episode.
Yeah.
To be clear on who took the lead on the notes and the idea. But it was a really good idea when she told me about it. I mean, I jumped on it immediately without hesitation.
Yeah. It also means you don't have to write the notes.
Well, it's true. But, I mean, there are times when you propose an idea and I have some reservations and we have to change and workshop. This one's like, no, that's great. Go. Run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was all on it. Just
That's
because
true.
it was that solid of an idea. I did not desire any workshopping or explanation. I thought it was a great idea. And that's because the normal way of opening a professional haunted house sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just flatly sucks. Now, here's the thing. This is according to lore.
Yeah.
I have not actually met anyone that's done it, and I've had dozens of conversations with haunters.
Yeah. So there are a couple of people who have done it.
Okay, who? You don't have to name names.
There's like a documentary about one, but let's just get into the way that they did it. What's the lore?
The lore, the way you're supposed to do it, according to what the community tells you. And you know, we're all not the best in the world at listening to what people tell us to do. We're haunters, goddammit.
No.
Anyways, what we're supposed to do, according to the man, is basically we're supposed to open up a home haunt, operate it for a few years, and then quote-unquote make the jump.
Yeah.
And then usually either it's 1 year or two, just have utter nut squash chaos
Yeah.
in your life.
Yeah.
Because you've got to go through all the efforts of getting an LLC and opening the business and doing all the business shit.
Right.
Which we're doing that for something else. And I'm getting a flavor of that and I don't like it. It's a lot. Then you got to go rent/buy the space. You got to build all the stuff that could be. And if you've only had a small home haunt, that's a huge expansion. You're probably going 5 or 6 times the size at least.
Yeah, especially if you do it in the compressed time frame that the lore states,
Yeah,
which is 1 to 2
1 to 2
years.
years. Yeah, 1 to
That's
2
crazy.
years. Yeah. Getting all the permits and fire code clearance and all that, which that process can take months by itself.
Yep.
Doing all the marketing and promotion, and considering you don't have a brand or a name, that's a lot of work. Then you got to recruit actors. Once again, you don't have a team other than your home haunt team, which will not be big enough.
No.
It's a lot to put into a year.
It is.
I mean, the whole lore is November 1st. We're going pro next year.
Yeah.
And then starting this process and just basically having the year from hell. And hopefully opening up next year or maybe doing another year of home haunting while working on it in the background and then going pro.
Yeah.
That is rough. That is a lot. And I'm too fucking old for that. Let's be honest. There's no way that's happening.
Well, apparently we were supposed to do it when we were younger.
Yes, apparently. Apparently you're supposed to, it's a young man's game.
I mean, if we had, followed this lore, we would have never been able to open a pro haunt.
Well, no, I mean, the gap of renting and buying the space alone, that's a lot of money you need.
Well, yeah, and when you're younger, a lot of times you aren't making as much as when you're older and might be able to.
The money issue is probably one of the lesser hurdles for us because we know people that could invest and we could probably put together a plan and convince people to contribute. We probably could do it pretty easily, to be honest with you. But so that's really not the biggest hurdle. But Oh my God. Just thinking about how overwhelming all this was.
Yeah.
When all we want to do is build and design a haunt.
Mm-hmm.
For us. And then go back to the Why We Don't Go Pro episode. It's a great episode we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great episode. It's a lot, though. We made checklists of all the things we would need to do before even getting the money,
Yeah.
And it just breathing into a paper bag, type hyperventilating, thinking about it. It's a lot.
It is.
So this is an episode about finding ways to ease that transition through, shall we say, creative alternatives.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This list pulls entirely, I said in the notes largely, I went back over it, it's entirely from our conversations with other haunters.
Exactly. These have been implemented by somebody.
Somebody made this work.
Yes.
As crazy pants as it sounds, some of these sound, they've worked.
Yeah.
All of them. And so, in fact, some of them are past episodes on Haunt Weekly, and we'll reference those as we go.
Right.
Now, we're not endorsing any of these. We're not saying these are right for you or this is the way you should do it, blah, 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 blah.
No.
We're saying these are ways that have worked and are ways you may not have considered, but may want to put it somewhere in the back part of your brain hole.
Exactly.
These are possibilities. So even if you got an idea, well, that's stupid, that'd never work for me, that's fine. We'll move on to the next one soon enough. It's an hour-long podcast. We've got some time to kill here.
A little bit.
A little bit. So, first option, Crystal.
All right. Pairing with a charity.
I like this one.
Yes. This is something that came up most recently with the Bloodshed Brothers in episode 266, but we've heard it from multiple places, and you actually attended a HauntCon talk about how to do this. But pairing with a charity comes with several pros. We'll get into the pros, and we're going to do this where we break it up into pros and cons and a little bit of background.
Yeah, pros, cons, and discussion, I think is the way it's going to work.
Exactly. So the pros. The charity does the paperwork. They provide the space.
Theoretically, yes.
Theoretically.
It's for this target charities that have buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like one of the haunts locally was Chinchuba's. Mm-hmm. And when they were open, the great thing about Chinchuba's was they were a school for the deaf that was partnered with the Catholic Church.
Right.
So they had tons of buildings in the area, including the one they were able to open in.
Yeah. Yeah, you can negotiate them providing a percentage of your cast, so they can provide the supporting cast. They could provide the marketing for it. They handle all of that headache paperwork we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. Getting the permits to have it in their building. And that makes it a lot easier on you if this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the main thing about this is it really reduces your startup cost. A lot of the costs that you would expect to incur when going pro go way down here.
Right.
Because, for example, I don't know how this is working right now with lumber prices being off the chain.
Right.
But Lowe's, Home Depot, those types of lumber, and lumber yards too, have a certain percentage of lumber that they are able to give to charities.
Exactly.
Charitable projects. You may be able to get free building materials. And without the overhead of having to pay for a space to operate out of, you don't have, to pay all this rent or all this mortgage payment, all this lease.
Right.
You don't have anything you owe there. So that drastically drives down the startup cost. The caveat is, on the flip side, is that you will have to give up a majority of your profits to be a charitable haunt. You have to do 51% has to go to the charity you're partnering with. And they may demand more.
Yeah. Yeah, because, they are providing a lot. And this is, to me, this is a way to keep haunting fun and not so much a job. Because, you have fewer costs to recoup.
Yeah.
And, that charity connection, if they allow you to say that you're working with them and use their tax ID code, then you will get donations. You can get more donations as a charity than as a business.
Yeah.
That's just obvious.
Oh, excuse me. But it's a great idea. Pairing with a charity is probably one of the easiest ways, and that talk at HauntCon was really interesting about it, because one of the things you realize is a lot of the heartburn that comes from launching a haunted attraction is the fact that you are trying to basically go from zero to launching this huge business in one jump.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, like, you want to become like a big department store, you probably aren't going to start
Right.
as a giant department store. You probably want to start with a little convenience store or corner store and just grow and do better.
Mm-hmm.
And as you turn more profit, you're going to expand. Haunts don't get that opportunity. We have to start out in multi-thousand square feet.
Yeah.
We have to start in these giant spaces. And so we look for ways to cut the cost on that. Like, we're going to move it into a warehouse. We're going to do we're going to get into the really, really sketchy part of town.
Yeah.
Like every haunt in New Orleans, pretty much.
No.
No.
That's not true.
That's not.
Mortuary's in a nice neighborhood.
They are across the street from the head shop.
It's still a nice neighborhood. It's mostly cemeteries. It's mostly dead people.
Yeah, it's mostly dead people. What are they going to do? That's a valid point. It's a valid point. They're in the cemetery neighborhood, which kind of makes sense when I say it out loud, doesn't it?
It caused a lot of problems, though.
But
anyway,
regardless, that's neither here nor there.
no. So what are some of the cons with working with a charity?
I mean, the biggest problem you're going to have, and this is a problem with a lot of these you're going to see, is when you're doing this kind of startup, this kind of this rig startup, it's not going to be a very permanent thing. Mm-hmm. Your relationship with the charity will likely be year to year.
Right.
And they could decide at any time, you're not bringing in enough money, you're not doing enough, or we're going a different direction with our fundraising.
Yeah, or it's just not working for some reason. Maybe they have a change of head or CEO or whatever, and they say, we don't want to do Halloween stuff.
Yeah, we're not finding this pairing as natural as we did when we started. And that happens a lot. We have seen that a lot. Mm-hmm. And that was actually one of the things that happened. Like I said, I mentioned Chinchubas.
Yeah.
That was a part of that.
Yeah.
After Katrina, they struggled to turn a profit. The charity said, we can't do you anymore.
Right.
We're going a different direction with our fundraising. That was the end of it.
Well, and the building the haunt was kept in was very damaged. And that was part of the issue that they had and part of the reason that they went their separate ways.
Yeah. Most likely, the charity is not going to give you year-round access to whatever property they're lending you. So you've got to think about where you're going to be storing your walls and your props and all the elements of your haunt.
Yeah, exactly. You're also probably going to have tight restrictions on time.
Yeah.
This is going to be a setup and knockdown
Most
at
likely.
a breakneck speed, probably.
Not all charity haunts go this way. There
No.
are some charity haunts that get a more permanent place. We've covered a few in the news.
No.
And Chinchubas, once again, was that way, where they were just allowed to stay in that space.
Right, because it wasn't being used for anything else.
Right. But it's also worth noting Chinchubas was not a partnership. It wasn't a private charity partnership. It was just run by the charity directly.
Yeah.
So that gave them a little more flexibility in that area.
Yeah, and one of the things we had actually talked about at one point whenever I worked at the Next was seeing if working with the base, they would let us use one of their abandoned buildings to put on a haunted house.
And they have so many abandoned buildings.
They do. Yeah.
They really do. I mean, we both know this because we both have worked on that base.
Yeah.
Even back in 2005, they had a ton of abandoned buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were never able to get it to fruition, but that might be something to keep in mind because they have a coordinator who does events for families.
Yeah. But that would limit you to only people who have access to the base.
Right.
Which is, well, in Belle Chase, that's actually pretty much everyone lives there.
Exactly.
That's actually a lot of people.
It depends on the size of the base, and then it would be a way...
And the community around it. And the
yeah, it would be a way to get money for a future haunt, not on the base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
that's part of this idea too, is that these are not your permanent solutions. This is how to get started to raise money to move to a more permanent location.
But that being said, it could take several years. I mean, that's one of the concerns about it not being permanent is it might not even last, the 5 years you need.
Right.
To get the fundraise and establish your groove.
Yeah.
It might not even give you that.
Right.
Because if they say in, November, yeah, sure, we'll have the haunt next year. Then November the next year, after you've had seemingly a successful year, we had a change ahead. We're going a different direction. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's just how it be. And that was one of the problems the Bloodshed Brothers had was they kept getting kind of kicked around by different groups.
Yeah. And now they've been at one place for a few years.
Yeah, and they've been able to plant some roots, but they had a time period there where they felt like they were getting kicked
Yeah, but definitely go back and listen to how they use their social media to let people know where they're going to be that year if
Yeah.
they have to move.
Exactly.
Because that's something that you want is to, if you get a few years with one place and then suddenly you have to move, you want your audience to be your own so that you can get in contact with them and say, we're moving somewhere else.
I agree completely. That's
Yeah.
excellent advice. And the part of that is you have to take the fifth con
Yeah.
to heart. And this was the takeaway advice for
Yeah.
me from the talk at Hong Kong was read those agreements with the charity careful.
Right.
Be sure you know who owns what and who has what responsibilities,
No.
especially with the IP.
Yeah.
Because he wrote the agreements carefully. He was able to keep control of the physical property and the props and everything.
Right.
However, because the agreement was 51% or whatever the percentage was of the profits, and he was allowed to put in so much each year, and it was a complex thing, but basically it ensured that he had ownership of the physical stuff, but be sure you keep the IP too.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to keep your name. You want to keep your characters. You want to keep your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's yours.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very important. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to turn what you've done into a professional haunt because you will not own what you have done.
Exactly.
And if you don't own what you've done, you might have the money and the resources, but you have to start 100% fresh, and that's a much bigger hill to climb.
It is. Yeah, so definitely make sure not only you read the contracts, but you get your lawyer to read them.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be in a situation where, you break up with the charity and they say, "Oh no, all of this stuff is ours."
No, you're not allowed.
You're just not here anymore. We're still going to do a haunt.
Yeah, we're bringing
You're
someone
just
else
not
in
a
to
part
run
of
it,
it.
Bring
Yeah.
in someone else to run it.
Yeah, and I have heard that heartbreaking story.
Yeah, that
So
has happened.
be careful.
Yeah, be very,
With the
very
agreement.
careful with those agreements. Seriously, if you go this route, focus, spend some time, spend some money, get a lawyer, like you said, go over and make sure you understand blow by blow what everyone's responsibilities and privileges are under this agreement.
Yeah. Yep.
Just
exactly.
beat by beat, make sure you get that. I cannot emphasize that enough.
No.
The second possibility. This was an interesting one, actually.
Yeah.
And in fact, you reminded me of this. This was
Right.
a conversation from a haunter at Hong Kong.
Yeah,
At Hong Kong.
they gave a talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, start a blackout maze.
Yeah. Now we hate blackout mazes. You
With a
guys know
passion.
this. But it's an easy way to get started.
Yeah.
Cuz the person from the conversation built a maze in a field as part of a town festival celebration. It was right next to the festival.
So like the town had some kind of fall
Yeah,
festival thing.
exactly.
They got a lot of people there, and they allowed
Yeah.
him to set up a tiny blackout maze, nothing but black panels,
Yeah,
in the field,
exactly.
and charge admission for it.
Right.
And basically, he had no or few actors.
Yeah, and within 3 years, they had saved up enough money to open a permanent location.
Yeah. And this is kind of brilliant because, yeah, you have a startup cost, whatever buying the black panels is.
Yeah,
And right now, that'd be fucking high.
it would,
Maybe
but
don't do this right
this
now.
was like 12 years ago.
Maybe save this for later. Hang on to this one. Put this in the back pocket when lumber prices become more not batshit insane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one for later. But it was a good idea because you have that initial setup cost.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, since you just rearrange the panels for free,
Yeah.
you don't have any recurring costs other than storage.
Right.
And you just come out, set up, do it again, and all the money you accrue is basically profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because when lumber prices are sane, and all of these also are for not necessarily for COVID years, but
Okay, so there's two problems right now. Good point.
yes,
There's a pandemic afoot.
there is. But it is a lower cost to start up.
And to upgrade and
Yeah,
maintain.
and to change. You don't need very many actors, as you mentioned. If it's held in an outdoor area, it's possibly easier to work within your fire codes. It's a lower time cost because black panels are fast to build. You don't have to think about decorating them or distressing them. You just paint them black and it's great.
Yep.
Good to go. It also, if you weatherproof it correctly without using weatherproofing wood, and the reason I say that is that those panels can then be decorated for when you move into your permanent space.
Now, as we've discussed previously, you cannot take pressure-treated lumber into an indoor haunt.
Right.
Because if it catches fire, basically people die super quick.
Yes, but you can seal regular lumber.
Yes.
So that it stands up to the elements, especially if you're only going to be open on weekends. And it goes straight into a dry place after you're done.
And it can also be stored, if the maze also can be in a covered area that's still outdoor, like a tabernacle or something like that.
Yeah.
And that, I think, maybe the first instance of the word tabernacle being featured on Haunt Weekly.
Probably. Yeah.
You're welcome. But yeah, there's a lot of pros to this, and I'm not a fan of blackout mazes. But the thing is, if you have a festival in town or a fair that's particularly big, and you can get to be a part of it fairly cheaply, like they have a low cost for the plot of land you're using, it's something that's easy to set up. You charge $5 a head, $10 a head, whatever, to go through it. They go through it, maybe have a couple of actors doing scaring, have a couple of drop panels, whatever. I'm sure you can work something out. But the main thing is it's so low cost to operate and run. I mean, I think of the damned maze at the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah.
When I think of this.
Exactly.
Because every year at the Renaissance Festival, there's the Maze of Death. No, there's the Museum of Death, and then there's the maze.
Yeah.
Two separate attractions.
I think it's just called the maze.
I think it is just called the maze. And they actually don't even use panels.
No.
They use cloth.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, come on.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's another way you could do it.
It's another way you can do it. I mean, I can't say that they're being crazy. It's another brilliant, and they charge like $5 a ticket, and you roam through this giant maze, and you come out, and you're done with the maze.
Yeah.
And they seem to always make crazy bank.
Yeah. I have no idea why people keep going in there.
I don't know either. I mean, I hate
don't
this
understand
attraction
it.
so hard. I hate the Death Museum as well too, because
So I used to like it because they had a weapon shop at the end that was really cool, and it was like the best prices for weapons on the campgrounds. You know?
Oh, it was the best price not just on the festival grounds. It was the best price for weapons, like legit anywhere.
Yeah,
for some of these weapons.
Yeah. We've bought one or two things.
Yeah, we bought several. One of our maces came from there.
Maybe.
And yes, we own multiple maces.
Yeah, but it shut down. It's no longer part of it.
Yeah,
and the only way to get to that shop was to pay the
$5 admission fee.
Exactly, to go through
and
the
roam
maze.
through it like this labyrinth. It's a labyrinth, not a maze. Labyrinth, and it was not very good. It was like the one of those. It reminded me of the Ripley's Believe It or Not section of medieval torture devices, but not as good. Like the Ripley's Museum was like way better. Regardless, yeah, but you can do a maze attraction very easy. Set it up in a field or in a festival that's ongoing and has people there. Yeah, and you can make a lot of money really fast and sock that money away for your pro haunt later.
Well, yeah, because that festival has built-in customers.
Yes.
Those are potential customers going to that fair.
Yep. Now, the cons of this are pretty obvious. One is building a maze is kind of boring.
It is. Lots of black panels does not make it.
And I say this as a guy who wears black 24/7.
Yeah.
365. I mean, I say this as someone that loves black. That's kind of boring. You're going to have to find a place to store this. Storage is cheaper than having it up year-round.
Right.
But you're still going to have to find storage, and you're going to have to think about the size of the storage unit you need in advance. Because you don't want to make the mistake of getting a storage unit and realizing they all won't fit. I have heard that so many times.
Yes.
I have heard exactly that story.
I've got one too many panels.
The panels won't fit, so you end up storing them in your garage or something. I don't know. You got to figure that out. You're going to have to figure out transportation of panels to site. If you don't own a large truck, you're going to have to find a way to rent one and figure that out. The timetables for these are often very tight. These fairs and festivals typically only have like a weekend of setup.
Yeah.
So you need to be thinking about how you're going to get the panels on site, set up the panels, or set up whatever you're using for the maze. Like you could use the fabric too, though.
Right.
I worry about mildew with that, but I'm sure they found a way to prevent that. It could just be plastic sheeting. We haven't actually been through that maze in like years.
I don't know that we've ever gone through
I thought
it.
we went through once out of
I
curiosity.
think Shawnee went through it.
Okay, that would be right. We should ask Shawnee what they were made out of.
Yeah.
Because he might actually remember. He's young.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
But using the anyway.
Yeah. It's not.
It could be cloth.
It could be close, but it's not a super long-term strategy. No. And depending upon where you are, weather can be an issue. I know that here in southeast Louisiana, I know the Renfest usually has 1 or 2 rain out weekends, quote unquote. They're open, rain or shine.
No.
But let's be real for a minute here. Who the fuck goes to a Renaissance festival when it's pouring rain?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just be realistic.
Like, I'm pretty sure, I think that they were open yesterday.
Oh, they were, yeah.
And I'm positive it was rained out because we have had rain every day for a week.
Yeah. The rain in New Orleans has been cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
Okay, next item.
Next items. This was, met a couple, the Buñuelos. Sorry if I mispronounced that. At a haunt con in Baton Rouge several years ago. And again, if you're hearing, met people at conference.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That is a thing that happens. We talk about our haunts. We find out how people get started.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind, especially for those of you going to Transworld.
Yeah, might be a great question to start asking around.
Yeah. So they started out at a flea market. Mm-hmm. They set up a haunted house at a flea market in Texas. And we also saw a walkthrough little thing for kids, a little haunted house walkthrough.
Hay built out of hay, though.
Yeah, it was built out of hay, bricks of hay. Not hay.
Hay bales.
Yeah, hay bales.
Bricks of hay.
Oh, bricks of hay.
Okay, Ricky.
They're building blocks.
All right, Ricky.
But anyway, they were making money hand over fist too, with that. And so that might be something to consider.
Yeah.
So the pros are, it's going to be a lower monthly rent than, say, in a shopping center.
Mm-hmm. And also, you can theoretically do it year round.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flea markets are every weekend.
Exactly. You can theoretically do it year round. There's a built-in audience because everybody's walking around. There's built-in concession. You don't have to think about that. That should have been something that we mentioned in the last one, too.
Built-in parking, too.
Yeah, built-in
parking.
parking.
Well, unless you're the flea market down the road from us, which...
We're not talking about that kind. We're talking about more like the White Elephant in Houston.
About real flea markets, not just sprung up shit that exists for some reason in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, not our neighborhood, but but nearby.
There's built-in entertainment while waiting because there are nearby shops that people can go meander around. Mm-hmm. And the flea market,
may provide help with the permitting.
Exactly.
Depending on the nature of the flea market, they may actually provide help with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's some real advantages here, and when they first started talking about it, I'm like, oh, that sounds horrible. I don't imagine I could ever. But then they started going into why they did it. Yeah. And it made sense.
Exactly.
They actually kind of talked me into it.
Exactly. Because, I mean, I know that there's a flea market in Alexandria that is made of buildings. Like, it's buildings next to each other. Yeah. So if you get 3 of those units, then you've got probably a 300 square foot haunt or something that you could do something with.
Yeah, you probably have at least enough room to do something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the cons are, well, the first one's pretty obvious. It's at a flea market. Yeah. A flea market is a place people look for bargains, not for haunted houses. Right. The audience, and that goes to the second problem, which the audience is built in, but it's not there for you. Yeah. Yeah. But the kids may say, hey, can we go do this? And I get $5, $10 to go to the tiny little haunted house.
Exactly.
And the audience is not there for you, but that also means it's not likely to follow you when you leave. Right. You're not going to be building an audience that you can build on top of whenever you actually leave there. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a small space. The notes say possibly small space. Bullshit. It's definitely going to be a small space. Yeah. Because even the biggest flea market stalls are less than our garage. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
And we have 625 square feet here, and we're a small haunt. We're a very small haunt by that approximation. So whatever you get at a flea market is going to be small and teeny tiny. You're going to have to be very, you're going to have to be understanding that it's not a long-term location. It's not a place you're going to want to be there year after year. But you may be able to make up for that some, especially if you do some year-round haunting there, if you have a community in an area that's ripe for it. But just bear in mind that flea markets tend to get attended by the same people over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like if you work a flea market, if you've ever worked a flea market, you'll see a lot of the same faces.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be visitors to your haunt week after week after week, most likely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, next item up for bid. Partner with a school.
Yeah.
This is how 13th Gate got started.
At least the legend that we've heard.
At least the legend, well, from Dwayne. we heard it from the horse's mouth.
Okay. I thought we had heard it somewhere else.
Oh, no, you might be right about that. Might not have
I think we heard with a school to use their gymnasium, and then were corrected that it was the football field.
Okay, but still, partnering with a school.
Yeah, exactly.
The 13th Gate can get started by partnering with a school. It's not the worst idea in the world.
Exactly.
Not the dumbest, at the very least.
Exactly.
Basically, the pros here are the school provides a space and will handle a lot of the permitting work.
Right.
Permitting work goes a lot smoother when you're working with an overarching body like a school. And for a percentage of the profits, they may be willing to help you out.
Exactly.
There is a built-in audience, i.e., the people at the school, the students.
The students.
You know,
I mean,
the little short people. What are they called?
Students.
The students. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. The students. And their families, too. Through proxy.
Yeah. And I would have loved to have had a haunted house where my teachers were the actors.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been cool.
Well, and we've seen this one flipped where the students were the actors and the teachers went through the haunt. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that. There was a band camp that did that in Belle Chase.
Yeah, so you can make a lot happen there, using the gym or using the football field.
Yeah. So also think about pairing with one of the
sports teams,
the teams or the groups like the band or the theater kids or reaching out to the teachers who are in charge of that.
We went to the one-off Belle Chase band haunt.
Exactly.
That was a lot of fun, actually. Those kids put a lot of heart into it. What they lacked in money and experience, they made up for in heart, and someone needed to remind them that whatever you're doing, you need to be doing it hundreds of times a night.
Yeah, and although I don't know how true that was for them.
Well, that night, maybe not.
Yeah.
But we were there early in the season.
Yeah.
We were there like one of the
we
first
often
weekends.
are. Yeah.
They had a long road to hoe with that one. They had a long ways to go. So we don't know how it got closer to Halloween. But the problems and the cons are very similar to other things we've discussed. You're going to have issues with year-round storage. Obviously, you can't just leave your haunt up in the 50-yard line of the football field or the high school football stadium. Transportation of items. So that means transportation and possibly, depending upon where you set up and whether they need that space during school hours, knocking it down and building it up again every weekend. The high school haunt we went to and got around this by using cloth dividers on wheels.
Right, exactly. Which is kind of brilliant.
I looked at the design of the haunt and I went, actually, that's clever.
Yeah.
I would never do it myself, but that's freaking clever.
Well, yeah, but as long as you're doing, what I think of as the cheesy style haunt where it's more of a walkthrough with a little bit of boo, then that's okay. If you're trying to scare people hard, they're going to run through those paper walls. Yeah, I've seen it happen.
We've actually had it happen to us.
Exactly.
Back the 1 year we did have not.
I didn't say I didn't see it happen at our house. I just saw I've seen it happen.
I seen it. He tore it all damn thing down.
He did.
Damn near did, at least. Oh, Lord, I'll never build with 2x2s and tarp again. I promise.
Yeah.
I promise.
We have not.
Guys.
We have not.
We have not.
Yes.
We have not done it, and that was 2005. And in our defense, we only built that way because we had no other option. It was nerf or nothing.
Exactly.
You're going to have to be very careful not to damage the field or the gym floors or anything. You do not want to be the one responsible for that. Obviously, this is not a long-term or permanent structure. The most you're probably going to get out of this is a season or two. And hopefully you can earn enough revenue to then make the leap elsewhere. And hopefully you'll gain some of that initial actor base. You'll have some
Right.
people in mind. And like I said, because you have that built-in actor base from the school, some of those kids might stick with you.
They might.
And the good ones could really help. And, the thing about it is, the good ones can be... I find teens, in particular, teens and especially older teens, become veterans at stuff really fast.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds. Their brains just absorb information, and they're like little sponges for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can become veterans, very knowledgeable veterans, very quickly.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the smartness of someone in their late teens, early 20s
No.
when they're really passionate about something.
Mm-hmm.
Never underestimate that. You will lose.
Yeah.
Next up.
All right. Partner with a sportsman's clubs to use their hiking trails.
I like this one.
Yes.
I like this one a lot.
Yes. Our favorite hiking trail we've been to was at a sportsman's club. And the name of the haunt was Waterloo.
Waterloo Sportsman Club in southeast Illinois, near St.
Yeah.
Louis-ish. But St. Louis is in Missouri, but it's right. Y'all study geography. You figure it out.
Yeah. Trail haunts are popular, especially right now with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen several open up. So in addition
Yeah.
to the new drive-through haunts that I didn't put in here, but I should have, because that's another thing to think about. But I mean, if they've already got trails cut out and cleared out for their hunters, they've probably are safe enough for you to put a walking path.
Yeah,
on.
nothing is more frustrating than going to a trail haunt where the trail is not adequately cleared. That has happened to us as customers many times.
Yeah, and then you're sitting there watching your feet,
You're
saying,
more scared of the stumps
branch,
and the branches and
branch.
stuff. Tree
Yes.
dip, divot, hole, giant freaking hole.
Yeah. Yeah, but theirs was really nice because
Immaculate.
they had put wood chips or something down over the entire
And they
thing
lit the entire thing.
and
too.
lit it with rope lights.
Yeah, a whole length of it, like a 1 to 2 mile trail. They lit the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it was long.
It was really long, and I know that because we were in there for goddamn near an hour.
Yeah.
Just shy of an hour, I think, was our walkthrough time. It was nuts. But the pros, yeah, like I said, you get the trail cleared out.
The woods
woods-
provide an immediate atmosphere
Yeah.
and will unsettle people who are not used to them.
Yep.
Even if you are used to them.
You're probably not used to them at night.
Well, yeah. Probably not.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah, and basically, any sportsman's club, and sportsman's clubs aren't so big around these parts, but they're big in more rural areas, like upstate Louisiana has several, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, southeast Illinois, where this was, or southwest Illinois, rather, is very popular. It's filled with them.
Yeah.
But
But a lot of these clubs have clubhouses where they offer concessions. So there again, you don't have to think about that.
Yep.
Also, that applies to the school, actually, because they have concessions for football
that's true.
stands.
That's a good point.
So fewer permits are probably needed for an outdoor attraction
Yep.
than an indoor,
Typically, yes.
typically. No real need to build panels or to transport them, because you can be creative with what you have. Use the trees, use the height of the trees available.
Freaks of Fear,
Mm-hmm.
a haunt in the Atlanta area,
Yeah.
did not have a single fucking panel. I just realized that.
No, they didn't.
Not a single fucking panel.
They had a couple tents.
Couple tents. They had some tents. They had some cloth things to hide actors, but not a single panel.
No.
I just realized that.
Yeah. Well, and if you were wearing dark clothing and you step more than a foot past a tree in the woods,
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to be able to be seen, especially when the pathway is lit.
Yep.
And I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right. I
So
screwed
pick it up.
So yeah, basically this is a lot of ways to build suspense and let you capitalize on it. It's a very easy way to get a trail haunt going.
Yeah.
They have the trails, they have the property.
Mm-hmm.
Cut a deal with them, split the revenue a certain way.
Yeah.
You've got a head start on a trail haunt.
Yeah. This would also be a great way to do a zombie paintball.
Yeah.
You have the customers walk on the trail and the zombies come out rushing from the woods.
Yeah, like the zombie laser tag thing we did at blah, 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 Scout Island.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Similar to that. The biggest con here is the weather, but that's true of any outdoor attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Weather's always going to be a problem. You probably know what the falls, autumns are like in your area and whether or not it is dry enough. It's actually the driest season, I think, in the New Orleans area. but it's still routinely very wet.
Usually. This past year we had a hurricane.
Yeah, it's true. We had a hurricane 3 days before Halloween, so fuck you, Zeta.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not even a real hurricane. You're a Greek alphabet letter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a sorority.
Yeah. Just keep in mind that there are wild animals in the woods. That's why hunters are there. Some of them are not so friendly.
Yeah.
And some of them are not afraid of people.
Most of them are, though.
Most of them are. Most of them will run away.
Yeah. This is not a permanent thing unless you're Waterloo. Waterloo, I think, is about as permanent as a haunt. I guess they've been doing it 35 years. But once again, that is a haunt put on by the Sportsman Club. Not to my knowledge, at least. Not a partnership from the outside the club.
Right.
And also, you've got to understand about the seasons. Waterloo Sportsman Club is closed for Halloween. And the reason is because they have to tear down and open for deer season.
Yeah.
Which begins pretty much right then.
Yeah. And so basically they're open till October 30th usually.
Or they usually are. They only do it on weekends.
I think they tear down the day before.
Yeah, they tear
unless it falls where there's a full weekend.
Yeah, I don't know how it works for them. But they're never open for Halloween or the last weekend of October. Because they've got to do tear down for deer season.
Yeah.
And that's what they're there to do, is raise money for their Sportsman Club activities, including deer hunting.
Yeah.
Here, deer season is November to January. I looked this up because I am not a hunter. It's not that I have any grudge with it. It's just, to quote Ron White, it's really fucking early in the morning and I don't want to go.
Yeah.
That's my problem with hunting. I'm lazy. So... yeah, it's November to January, so you could probably make it work. However, in Illinois, where Waterloo is, it's technically October through January, though in certain areas further down, it's late. They bump it down later because the deer won't be out because of when it's easier to do deer hunting activities. So, yeah. Another option, and this is one I'm very interested to see how this pans out. We have a friend doing this one.
Yeah.
This is our last one, too, by the way.
Yeah. I know, which is good.
Which is good, because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Playing the long game with the home haunt.
Yeah.
Now, here's what we mean by this. Do your home haunt every year, but every year, take everything you do, put it aside, and build something new.
Yes, every year.
Every freaking year.
So store those first things that you built.
Every year, start brand new.
Yeah.
The idea behind this is you're going to spend years building room by room by room, or one or two rooms a year.
Yeah.
And you're going to build the panels for those rooms. You're going to decorate it. You're going to do the design, put them together, test them out at the home haunt or a trick-or-treat maze or whatever you want to do at your house.
Yeah.
And then as the number of panels grow, so does your theoretical walkthrough, even though you're only doing 2 rooms per year. And basically, it's a math problem.
Yeah.
If you do 10 panels per year for 10 years, which is a low number of panels, to be honest. I mean,
it is.
I think we have 21 in our haunt, in our small haunt. So, theoretically, let's just change the numbers then. You do 20 panels per year.
Yeah.
For 10 years. That's 200 panels on the flip side.
Exactly.
That's not necessarily enough to have a pro haunt ready to go.
Yeah.
Depending upon how large you want to make it. But it's enough to build a fairly sizable haunt.
It's enough to get a start.
It's definitely a long head start over what most people have. And these are designed, decorated, tested rooms.
Yeah.
None of these are new. And so that's the thing. That's the big pro. To jump to the pros, the big one is this is a way to build, design, and test your rooms before you ever open.
Exactly.
And you can finalize the design. So you get a chance when you open up a room to say, okay, no, that didn't work with them coming in on the right and the scare. We need to swap it around. Or no, the scare's got to come from up or whatever. You can change the room and know how to make it work before you open. And so that way, whenever... this also gives you a chance, by the way, to build some brand recognition, especially if it's the same name, like we would do theoretically.
Yes.
It's dubious. I've heard from multiple people that have made the jump from home haunt to pro that your home haunt crowd never follows you, even if you keep the same name.
Yeah.
But there are some that have said at least certain elements of it do, especially if you are very well known and have been doing it for a longer period of time. So yeah, the whole point here is that when you do get a permanent building, you do make that leap. You don't have to do nearly as much of the building or outlay as nearly much of the money
to
do the build, because you have so much of it already done. And also, it helps with the permitting process because you've already laid out significant portions of this haunt and tested them.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's a lot of it shortens, doesn't eliminate, but it shortens a lot of the steps along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the biggest problem is going to be where the fuck do you put all those panels?
Yeah. Where do you store them?
Where do you?
The friend we have started storing them in their garage.
Yes.
And then they built a storage shed.
Yes. And then they bought a storage
built
shed.
another one. So,
no, did they buy a second one or did they rent one?
I'd have to ask him.
But I know he acquired another.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was built because it's cheaper to build one if you've got enough property to put it on.
We do not.
No, than it is to rent one for multiple years.
Yeah. So yeah, basically be thinking about that. You're not going to earn any money from this, though. This does spread out your expenditure a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of patience and a lot of commitment to it.
Yeah, and you get to do something new every year.
Yeah.
For however long you need.
It does take a lot of time, and you're going to have the usual home haunt struggles to worry about.
Yeah.
Whether your neighbors complain, if you have an HOA, if you need permits for it. Like I said, most home haunts do not, but certain areas, especially with HOAs and things, you never know what you might run into there. And you are still going to have a lot of this high startup cost because you're still going to have to buy a place. Or rent a place or whatever. You have to go through that rigmarole. That said, you can combine this with another approach like teaming up with a charity to make it a double whammy and eliminate nearly all of the heartburn.
Exactly.
Starting on. So this is kind of like the add-on element, if you will.
Yeah.
You can add this on to the other approaches. And that's the thing. You can go to a charity and say, look, we've been doing this as a home haunt for X number of years. I have X number of panels and X number of rooms already built and designed, ready to go. All I need is a space and a place to put it and people to come act in it. And if you can provide that and help with the permitting and the marketing, we got a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a hell of an offer.
It is. And as you build them, if you're forward thinking enough, you can design it into your CAD, put it into your CAD, each room into your CAD, and then arrange them in there once, you have the space that you're going to be in.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how that helps with, the design and layout to get the permits.
Exactly. Well, those are some unusual ways to start your haunt, and I kind of love all of them for various reasons. But
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of blackout mazes, but I could see myself running a small blackout maze attraction or just a maze attraction in general.
Yeah.
To get money and revenue because
to know that this is a stepping stone.
Yeah,
it's a stepping stone.
Exactly. And the goal is to take this and make it into something bigger with the money I raise from it.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of things with that.
Right.
All right. But anyways, we got to take a minute to revisit the question of the week. I know we had a few answers. And the question of the week this week for those playing along at home is, what advice would you give a wannabe haunter or a new haunter? And I know we had a few answers, so let's go for it.
Okay. Greg Reinhardt said, the best advice I can give new actors, do some research on your character and create a good backstory for them.
Yes.
You'll always have times where you'll get questions that you can use that material for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's a good point, because it's something, like, how many times have we been in a haunt as customers, and either we or someone else has said something to an actor, and the actor, well, I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
And walked away.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you've got to come up with if you flesh out the character fully in your own mind,
yeah,
that makes any improving you have to do so much easier.
Right. And I've actually had this happen here, too. The first year that I debuted my librarian character, I was asked, what's in the books? And I just said, lies, lies. But this group of kids kept coming back and wanted a more detailed answer.
Yeah.
So every time I would have to give them a more detailed answer. That was a
slower night. We were allowing people to come there multiple times.
Or they came in multiple nights.
on Halloween.
I just remembered these 3 kids, and I'm pretty sure I would recognize them
to this day.
Today if they came in at that same age.
Yeah, but
somehow.
That's a great idea. That's a great point there to try to basically have your character fully fleshed out and formed. Because not everyone is very good at improv.
Yeah.
I get that. And so the way to make improv easier is to put forethought into the character.
Yeah, exactly.
Next item.
Chris Gay said, find out your local fire codes before you start anything.
Yeah, it's absolutely important, yes.
Yes.
That's if you're on
Very,
the build
very true.
side, not so much the acting side, but if you're on the build and design side, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. In fact,
Well, we didn't specify which
that is
which
true.
part
No, we
of
did not.
haunting.
In fact, I deliberately included build when I said
Yes.
when I said the question of the week. So no, it's completely fair, and it's a very good point. If you're going to do build or design of a haunt, that's probably the absolute first thing you need to do.
Yeah.
Is figure out what the laws you're working underneath are going to be, because that's just
Yeah.
all right.
Makes sense. All right.
So yeah, some great answers there. Thanks a lot, everyone. Appreciate you joining us. Any final thoughts? Did we miss anything with your notes?
Just the drive-through haunted house. Same advantages as the trail haunt, basically.
And to that end, we have seen a big increase in haunts and haunters partnering with car washes.
Yeah. Exactly. Haunted car wash.
Why didn't I think of that? That's an unusual way. I don't know anyone that's done it.
No.
We've not had a direct conversation with anyone that's done it. At least
No.
We've done news stories about people that have done it, but we don't know anybody that's done it.
Yeah.
So if you've actually pulled that off, send us a message. You can send us a message at hauntweekly.com or hauntweekly on Twitter, hauntweekly on Facebook. YouTube.com/hauntweekly is our YouTube channel. Feel free to leave a comment there as well. You can also catch us at Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. And if you want to be a part of the podcast, you can participate live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Jonathan, get it right. But until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this has been Haunt Weekly, episode 281, talking about unusual ways to start your haunt. We'll see you all next week with God knows what. We have no idea what next week's episode is. We got the one after it planned.
Yeah.
But the next one we haven't defined yet. So it's going to be a surprise to us, too. We'll see you then.